Welcome, everyone, to this Professional Development Hour presentation brought to you proudly by the Atlanta Metro chapter of the Georgia Society of Professional Engineers, an affiliate of the National Society of Professional Engineers. Before we begin, we'd like to let you know that any opinions presented tonight are solely the opinions of the presenter and not that of the Georgia Society of Professional Engineers, the National Society of Professional Engineers, or any other of its affiliates. We certainly hope you will enjoy tonight's presentation, so sit back and relax, and on with the show. We hope you enjoyed this presentation given at one of the Atlanta Metro chapter meetings of the Georgia Society of Professional Engineers, an affiliate of the National Society of Professional Engineers.
All right, folks. Okay. Our presentation today is continuous improvement for engineers, and this is a great topic, especially for us industrial engineers. Great topic. Our presenter today is Michael Gerster. Yes.
Very good.
He has helped manufacturers transform their operations, proving that continuous improvement and lean thinking can unlock speed, quality, and reliability that competitors simply cannot match. He has worked in manufacturing his entire career. He's a graduate German engineer with an additional degree in business administration. And he built his career across Germany, France, Luxembourg before coming to the U.S. in 1998.
That's right.
Without further ado,
Thank you very much.
a warm welcome.
I just have to say good evening, and everybody knows I'm not from Macon, Georgia, right? Interesting enough, lived 5 years in Luxembourg. Battle of the Bulge. Does it tell you anything? That was about 15 minutes behind my house. And actually, when I finished my studies in Germany, I became a management trainee in Birmingham, Alabama, and stayed there 18 months. And 6 months before my visa was over, I ran into the mother of our 4 children. And my wife Lynn, she moved with me from Birmingham to Cologne, Germany, where I came from, where I was born. And went to Berlitz school first to learn the language. And we lived then 10 years in Germany and then 5 years in Luxembourg. And so her parents came to visit us very frequently. And if you ever have the chance to travel to Luxembourg, you need to see the American cemetery in Luxembourg. When my father-in-law saw it, he started to cry. There is 5,500 graves lined up in a way that all the grave plates face one grave in the middle of it all, and it is General Patton's grave. And he actually died in a car accident in Berlin, but he always said, if I do die prematurely, I do want to be buried with the soldiers that fought with me the Battle of the Bulge, and that was right around Luxembourg. Very, very impressive. A lot of history there. Anyways, thank you for having me tonight. Continuous improvement has been a big item for me in my entire life. I have been in manufacturing for many, many years. And came to the United States in '98 when I was offered a job as president of a company called Weicker Instrument Corporation in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And after 16 years there, or let me say, when I took over the company, we were 320 employees and $42 million in sales. And 16 years later, we were a $150 million company and 720 people, employees in the plant. And most of that growth came from being an easy to do company with for our customers. That really drove the development. We're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail as we go down the presentation, but I want to kick it off and make you aware that we're not going to talk about what we do in your companies. We are all different, right? But we all deploy processes to produce what we do. And we call that how we do things, right? How do we do things? And I want to kick it off by asking you one question. And I want, when you're going to see a word, and I want you to tell me, what do you think when you see this word here? Innovation. Okay? Normally when we hear the word innovation, we think about a gadget, a product, a service that our company makes, right? But we do have to realize, let me start the clock, so I know I have only 3 hours tonight, right? The competitive advantage that you gain through a new gadget, to an innovative gadget, is most likely only temporary. It comes to an end then when you bring out a new product, or your competitor brings out a product that matches yours or is cheaper than yours, etc., right? So there is a limit to how good the company can do and has to re-innovate itself all the time, when there's another item that gets brutally ignored most of the time, not with companies like Yokogawa, for example, is the way, how do we re-innovate the way that we do business? How are we doing business? Go ahead.
I'm thinking I did not think of a product. I thought of thinking outside the box.
Okay. Well, but when we hear the word innovation, we always think about something very tangible, right? We're not thinking about the order entry process, right? Or we don't think the goods receiving quality inspection processes. Right? We think about the end product that we produce, the pressure transmitter, what we sell to our customers. So there is a lot of things that can be done differently if we just think in terms of how we can improve the work and how we do it, all right? And I want to give you an example for continuous improvement in a process, although it is a very simple one. Somebody thought winning a car race not only depends on your engine, not only depends on your driver, not only depends on your tires, but also the car comes to the pit every now and then and has to have new tires, maybe minor modifications. Today, not all the race cars are refueled during the race stop, but I'm going to show you a picture of a Ferrari race stop from in the 60s, right? And the average time then was about 60 seconds. And then they did not have speed limits in the pit road. So 60 seconds for a pit stop in the 60s, and today it is 1.9 seconds. To be fair, they don't refuel within the 9.2 seconds, but you can imagine all the things that went into changes of the pit stop process in order to make it that time. And I have been, while I was on an assignment, I've been to a miniature racetrack in North Carolina. I was totally surprised to see this. This was just a small circle, and they had a mock-up pit lane, and the car would come around, stop at the desired spot, cameras all over the place, the crew would jump into the car or onto the car, perform all the necessary work and shoot the car back out on the racetrack. And then with the cameras and the video that they were taking, they were analyzing every detail in what was going on during this pit stop in order to find moments, tangible moments where they can implement improvements. So when you think about longevity of your company, there's two things that drive it. Number one is profitability. And the goals, your stakeholder sets the goals on profitability, and you can perhaps go and get some information about how your competitors are doing, and are they doing better, are they doing worse, right? And the other thing that drives your longevity is customer loyalty, right? What is the customer's buying experience when they come and ask for your product or your service, right? And it starts right here. It's not just the manufacturing or the production part of it. Most orders start with what? A request for quote. How long does it take you to put a request for quote out? If you want to ship orders the same day, you can't take 3 days to enter the order into the system, right? Once you put an order confirmation out that contains a confirmed ship date, then you produce it. How good is your on-time delivery performance? And once the customer receives the delivery, how accurate is the order? How accurate is the price that you quoted? Does it match what you originally quoted? And all the discrepancies in between can create big havoc and big delays in the entire process from order to delivery. That is part of the lead time. And so a lot of people say, where do I start with my continuous improvement initiative? Well, one thing is go to your owners and say, are you happy with the profitability, or can it be 5% more? The other thing is go to your customers. Ask your customers. I have, especially while I was working with Weica, routinely took my entire management team and dispatched them to our customers, OEMs or distributors, and asked them to spend a whole day with them, to touch on everybody in their organization that would touch on our name. Receiving, people would place the orders, people that would process the payments to us, and engage with them in a meaningful conversation about how can we contribute more value to your business? How can we become part of your business? So, no, this one, yeah. Process drive productivity and drive profits and loyalty, right? And what are the processes that we're looking at? There's the design process, then we build something, we deliver something, and from the beginning to the end, there is some level of support. Support means, how long does it take you to answer the telephone? Your customer will tell you, I can never get to talk to anybody in your organization. I leave a message, they never call me back, right? If you take a week to send somebody a quote following a request for quotation, what does it tell the customer about how dearly you want their business if it takes you a week just to respond to the first initial request for a quote, right? And we know that 75% of those that respond first with a ship date and a price walk away with the order, most likely. So what in the process is value add? Value add is everything that your customer is prepared to pay for. Try to eliminate everything that your customer, when you ask, would say, no, I don't want to pay for that. That doesn't serve my business. Sometimes there is value add, there is a waste in the system that the customer says, I'm not going to pay for it, but you still need to do it in certain situations. But in generally, you need to try to analyze your processes, your production process, and find the waste in it and eliminate what is not value added. And then picture it like this. Your stakeholders and your customers are sitting in the audience, and as you work with your organization, they generate a sound. And that sound is either good because it meets customer expectation, or it sounds horrible because everybody in the orchestra seems to be on a different page, right? And that is the difference between harmony and discord. Fix processes first before you think about changing people, right? Because a lot of broken processes have infested our organizations, and they make people look bad. And sometimes we strive and say, we need to get rid of this person, we need to change this person, and somebody else comes in there and they fail miserably just the same, because the process is way too complicated and the process is made for them to fail. And therefore, repeating the same again and again and expecting a different result is the sign of insanity, right? So at some point, you need to say, this is enough, we need to start implementing change and understand what is driving these shortcomings. Then the system drives behavior, right? And if you position your people for success by making the processes easier and foolproof, the morale and the mood in the company will explode tremendously. Culture, that was the word I was looking for. The morale and the culture will improve, right? So deploy continuous improvement systematically to realign and reinvent your operational system. What is continuous improvement? Continuous improvement is not an ad hoc, let's look at this problem and let's look at it, and we have had 5 customer returns and we need to look at this process and need to fix it. This is troubleshooting. Continuous improvement is a mindset. There is a beginning, yes, but there is never an end to it, because it goes around and around. The continuous improvement cycle has a do component. That means, what are we going to do about our order entry process? Something that we all agree and can build a consensus on needs to improve. What is it that we want to do? And then we check on whether what we are doing has actually worked out. And we're going to talk about how we're going to check on this. We act about it, and then once the dust has settled, then all of a sudden, I have learned that you will see new horizons that will automatically push you to try the next thing. But the whole cycle is very, very dynamic, right? It starts with challenging the status quo, set priorities for improvements. You cannot do everything at the same time. Set priorities there where you think they will benefit profitability or the customer buying experience the most. Once change is implemented, sustain and make it work, right? You have heard the term of a Kaizen event that can run for a day, for 3 days, or for a week. I have seen them go. And come Monday after the Kaizen event, you got to stay very focused on the changes you have implemented, so that people don't move the furniture back and go back to the old process, right? And it sometimes takes some willpower and even the acceptance of failure. If it didn't work out what we tried to do, let's at least learn from it and see how we can take the next step. So sustain, put your heels, dig your heels in and make it work before you take the next step. Learn from successes and failures. Once the dust has settled, you will automatically see, oops, now let's try this. And with that, you become an automation and a constantly forward-driven morale and culture in the company. Everything can be improved. Nothing is ever perfect. Depending on where you start, the increments get smaller, the increments of success get smaller, but the way to improve never ends. Particularly, profitability or customer satisfaction is a moving target, right? What the customer would tolerate 10 years ago, they will not tolerate in 5 years from today, right? Your companies may be sold to another owner, to another private equity company, and all of a sudden they come and say, we need 15% EBIT. How do we get there? Right? And these, if you drive it right, that will help you in order to push the organization forward, and most importantly, once you set the hook in the organization, it becomes self-propelled. And it is a tremendous change in morale and culture of your company. So how do we deploy continuous improvement? Start with processes, not people. Understand that people are perhaps set up for failure, right? Engage frontline experts. When I retired from WICA, I wanted to retire really, but then a consulting company came to me and said, listen, you have been doing a really good job with WICA. Why don't you come and work with us? We would like to send you to clients on different engagements. And that was something that kind of challenged me, that I thought was quite interesting. And it was weekly, Monday through Friday travel for the past 10 years until a few weeks ago, when I decided I'm not going to head to the airport on Monday morning at 4:30 anymore, or come back on Friday afternoon and spend an hour and a half going from the airport all the way to coming. So when I started a new engagement, I spent the least time with the management. I spent the most time with the frontline people. Why? They know the problems. And they have the solutions for you. They have just never been asked for it, right? Have you ever heard about Eli Goldratt? The guy that wrote the famous book, The Goal, right? I have met him a few times, yes, and actually had a one-on-one session with him. And one famous word or sentence resonates with me forever, or will resonate with me forever, and that is, he said, the biggest problem in management is management's lack of attention to detail. They really don't want to know about all your problems, when in reality, go ahead.
They want a management summary.
Pardon me?
They want a management summary.
Yes, but with that, they always fail to engage with the frontline. With that kind of attitude, they fail to engage with the frontline people when the solution is so close and so simple to get. I was once called to a company in Tennessee. My job was to understand a assembly line of certain products, and they said, we just set up a new assembly line, we Kaizened the entire process, we want 150 products throughput every day, and we only reach 50 and 60 pieces every day. And we want you to tell us what the heck is going on there. That was a very short engagement, because within 30 minutes I knew what was wrong there. When I walked up to the line, I saw a long line and people working like clockwork, like a perfect engine. And all of a sudden the work stopped. I said, what's going on? There's a component that we need. We don't have it. Somebody needs to bring it from central inventory. Well, call the guy. They called the guy and he said, I'm going to come to you when I get there, okay? So 15, 20 minutes would elapse. Nobody would show up. We had to call again, right? And I said, why don't we have more inventory at arm's reach in the supermarkets, what we call them? And they said, well, management came by and said, no, we don't want all those components on the shop floor. That doesn't look orderly. We want them in the warehouse. I said, if that's what management want, but then they need to make sure that we got enough capacity to transport and replenish the line as needed before everything comes to a stop. How simple was that, right? And management was never really interested, because they wouldn't show up on the shop floor and engage with people and ask them the question, what's going on? What is your suggestion? How can we fix this problem? Why was it a bad day yesterday? Really, really simple. Break problems into small steps. Don't make it too convoluted, because we're losing people, especially as we train them in this process. And then measure, learn, and repeat. And another big saying is, what you don't measure will not get improved, right? And in order to measure things, we use key performance indicators that we review weekly, monthly, quarterly, depending on how dynamic they are, to see whether the numbers suggest what we have changed has a positive or negative impact, right? We don't want expert opinions. The numbers need to confirm it one way or the other. So, quick excursus on common struggles that I find over and over again in all the companies is, what do companies struggle with? Is inventory alignment. You go to the purchaser and he will say, or you go to the CFO and they say, no, inventory is bad, as little as possible, right? You go to the production people, they say, inventory is good, as much as possible. So what is a healthy way in between, and how do you get there? Tact pacing. That is something very important for engineers as we design fixtures that help the production process, or we determine how many pieces we want to build every day, right? That is what people struggle with, and it is a huge opportunity to improve profitability. Inventory alignment, tact pacing, on-time delivery performance.
Down on what tact is.
It's a German word. If you play a piano, my last assignment was with Steinway & Sons, the piano manufacturer. So when they were testing the pianos and they had the guys there, they had always this design on the piano setting that would give the tact, right? But there's also a tact time in customer demand. We'll talk about that in just a second. On-time delivery performance. When the customer comes, ship, here's the order, ship me 10 gadgets. And you say, it will take me 4 weeks. Will you disappoint the customer by taking actually 6 weeks or more? Right? Is your on-time delivery performance upper 90% or is it only 70%? Do you have the courage to tell your customer when they place the order what your on-time delivery performance is? If you're only 30% on time, do you think your customer would want to know that 70% of the time you're not accurate? And give him the opportunity to ask you, please, it's important for me, let me be part of the 30%, not part of the 70%, right? And then lead time reduction. Another item that contributes to customer satisfaction and how satisfied the customer is with the buying process, right? Is your lead time long? Is it acceptable? Or do you blow your competitor out of the water by having the shortest industry lead times? And can you imagine your on-time delivery performance is impeccable. Your on-time, your lead time is the shortest there is. Why do you always go to Google, to Amazon and place orders? Out of convenience. We don't check prices when we buy. Most of the time, we don't check prices when we buy from Amazon because we know they have it and they ship it the next day. They have a very short lead time and they ship it the next day, and that generates a lot of customer loyalty, right? So why am I saying this? We're going to find out how continuous improvement works over these examples here, and also what kind of key performance indicators to deploy to measure weekly, monthly, quarterly. How does it work? For instance, your service level is percentage of demand met, right? You can track this. On time, in full delivery. Do you ship on time a partial quantity or the full quantity? Because there are costs to your customer associated when you ship partials, because they have another inspection process to go through when they receive your delivery, right? Your inventory turns, frequency of inventory cycling. Do you turn the inventory 12 times? Do you turn it only 4 times, right? That makes a big financial difference. Days of supply. I look at a certain inventory level, I have 12,000 pieces in inventory. I need 1,000 every month. I have inventory for 12 months. Why do I have that much inventory if I can replenish it in 3 months? So should be 3,000, maybe plus 1,000 pieces for safety stock be more adequate, right? And give me the opportunity to reduce my inventory by 60%. Write-offs. One of the issues that we had at Weikai at the beginning, every year we had $500,000 in write-offs. Now there are a few companies still around that think inventory is a good thing because it buffers your P&L and it buffers your financial reports. But a lot of companies now use internal schedules that says if that item hasn't moved since 6 months, I'm going to write off 50%, right? And you know what every write-off, where it goes to? It goes to your bottom line. And if you have $500,000 in write-off every year, you lose profitability of $500,000. It's as simple as that. Expedites, emergency shipments or runs. I need to have this tomorrow. Or you are late with your delivery. You need to schedule overtime. You need to schedule expedited shipment measures in order to get the product to your customer. It's all an elimination. And you can measure all of these and tracking. And then, of course, takt time adherence, we're going to talk about this, is you check whether your output is the same as the demand. Right? You want your output to be balanced to the demand. Then you hit your takt time. A baker would never bake 20 breads if he would know, if he knows it can only sell 10 a day, right? If the average shows 10 bread loaves a day, if he bakes only 5, then customers will be turned away asking for bread, and he said, I'm out of bread for today, or you have to come back to tomorrow, right? Or if he bakes 15, then he has 5 left over at the end of the day that costs money and won't generate any revenue, right? By the way, there is this guy with a loaf of bread coming in the bakery, and he yells over the counter, and he says, this bread is from yesterday. And the lady behind the counter said, well, if you want some from today, you need to come back tomorrow, okay? So, all right, then let's look at the first one, right-sizing inventory, okay? When inventory is off, you always have not enough of what you do actually need and too much of what you don't need. That is just, I find that in all the organizations that don't manage the inventory well, and you lock up a lot of cash, you create a lot of risk because items are going obsolete at some time, and you will impact your service levels. And if you have too much in inventory, if you want to be everything to everybody, it will break you financially. And from the highest perspective, too much inventory means nothing else but a lack of go-to-market strategy. Because the go-to-market strategy tells you what do you want to be for your customers, right? This is too much inventory is a result of lack of go-to-market strategy, and how we can break this, we'll talk about it in just a second. Pacing to tact. Here we are. Tact time is available time divided by demand. In hours, in seconds, in minutes, no matter how you want to slice it and how it is appropriate to your business. Okay? We have an operation consisting of operator number 1, 2, and 3. And here, I'm sorry for the bad quality. Here's the tact time or cycle time chart. This shows you the tact time is here. It's 70 seconds per piece. And if you look at the operator 1, 2, and 3, their cycle chart says operator A needs 90 seconds. Operator B needs 60 seconds or 45, and operator C is a little bit closer to tact time than the other guy. So what's wrong with this diagram? What this guy will produce will end up here in inventory, and WIP will get higher and higher and higher because he produces more than he can throughput, right? And
looks like the guy in the middle has the highest throughput.
pardon me?
Looks like the operator in the middle has. It looks like the operator in the middle has the best throughput.
He is the constraint. Right? And what do we know about the constraint? No matter what you do, nothing will change unless you change the constraint. So you either bump this guy up to tact time, right? Or bring this guy down to align with tact time. Because what he produces will just add up in inventory before this operation. Right? And sometimes you can achieve that by moving people around, or
I guess I worked at a factory and had quotas. I repaired brand new radios, and the first person to apply power to them, and we were always quota driven. And I was often second best on a particular radio in my department. So the boss would always come stroke me for more. And I looked at him one day and says, I'm second best in the department. why are you stroking me?
Yes.
Because there was a guy, he's dead now, I'm sure. He had a palsied hand. The radio weighed about 40 pounds. It was cast metal, something you put in the back of your car. And he couldn't move fast. Bill couldn't move fast enough. He was ashamed of it. He knew what to do, but he was slow. And I had to work at the same bench as him. He worked days, I worked evenings. But I like Bill. I knew him since I was a kid. But Bill had the physical impediment where his ability to move,
to perform was not there.
I guess the manager thought, trying to stroke Bill for another radio a day or 2 radios a week.
If Bill is important to the
So
organization,
if you come to Bill, well,
you give him an assistant or a helper.
I'm doing good. What's the problem? That was my attitude.
And so this is the customer is buying basically a product every, 70 seconds is this, right? This guy, you will never be able to meet customer demand if this guy stays below the tech time, right? And so he does not bring more, the same amount that he can do. So this one is starving this one. And this one is, what's the opposite of starving? Overfeeding the other one, right? So that's it, and especially if we have manufacturing processes where A is in one end of the building and B is in the other end of the building, or maybe B is a supplier where we have to get an item and have it nickel plated or chrome plated and then bring it back into the plant in order to continue. This is something that gets lost in the setup every day and is urgently needed to align this and to get clarity of what's going on.
The thing that masks it is processes in place where you manufacture, you produce, and then you put an inventory instead of sending it right next to the next operation, because then nobody sees it, right? And so it masks that imbalance between the operations.
And that is the beauty of when you, if A is there and B is there and C is there, I call that the manufacturing maze, right? It creates nothing but waiting times between the operations. And guess what? Once this guy is ready with the 10 pieces and pushes them to B, B is still working on something completely else, and the stuff sits there and waits for days and weeks sometimes before it gets processed, right? And that's a bottleneck. Yes, and we'll talk about this in just a second, to eliminate that manufacturing maze by setting up manufacturing cells that depend on one piece flow. The other beauty of it is they make a mistake and they process a batch of 100 pieces and they push it to B. And once B looks at it and says, hey, this is all wrong, right? What do you have? You have a rework of 100 pieces at hand that you have to do first. And if the item goes back, maybe he has to rework, and the whole scheduling becomes an absolute nightmare. Does that ring a bell with you?
Yes.
And people like Oracle and SAP, they make a fortune out of this by selling you a software system that is supposed to be controlling all of this.
I think I may be reading it wrong, but I'm seeing it the opposite of what you just said. So the first operator would be the bottleneck because it takes the longest time to complete one operation.
No, he is not the bottleneck.
And
he
he's
produces
also over
more
the
than the
takt
tech time.
That's how much he's producing.
He produces.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
it's not the cycle time.
But look, the difference, he produces so much more than he can do. So every piece surplus to his capacity ends up in WIP.
Okay, I guess I wasn't quite I was reading it as cycle time. So to me, it looks like operator A actually had the highest cycle time. So completed the operation in the highest
Okay,
amount of time.
I got it, yeah.
And then it was over the takt time, and that would be a line that was imbalanced. I mean, it's already imbalanced, but.
Well, it says takt times in second, right? So he is substantially above, and they are all not aligned with the takt time, and that gives you a huge opportunity for alignment of your capacities and to guarantee that there's a better flow through of products through the plant.
Line
Roger.
balancing.
Pardon me?
Line balancing.
Line balancing, exactly. On-time delivery performance. This looks so much better here than it is on the... your on-time delivery performance signals to your customer whether you are a competent manufacturer, right? Operational competence, if you're always late. And I can tell you, I've been in my earlier career late and late and late again, and spend a lot of time smoothing customers and telling them what the problem was and making excuses, right? It's actually if your on-time delivery performance is in the upper 90s, then you are striving for operational excellence. If you are below 70, 65%, you have a long way to go to become operational excellence, right?
One of my vendors early on lost me as a customer because of that.
One
One of my vendors early on lost me as a customer to that. Oh, it's not ready today. It'll be next week.
So you had a supplier that couldn't ship you the product in time for you when you needed it.
It wasn't ready for me to pick up. He was local.
What if you don't have an alternative? Or if that was the low-cost vendor? Then making the choices can be hard choices, right? But sometimes you can work with your tardy vendor and ask them to put vendor-managed inventory in your place. So you have it at arm's reach, right? And you bill it as it is being consumed. There are many different solutions available to deal with this. So, but important is that when a customer gives you an order is that you do have the guts to assign a ship date, that you do a promised date, right? That you track your performance and that you analyze root causes. And you all have heard the Pareto analysis, right? Is it Giacomo Pareto?
I don't remember his
Giacomo Pareto was an Italian guy that lived in Venice, and he realized that 80% of the wealth and the financial wealth in Venice was spread over only 20% of the people. Here you go, there's where that 80-20 rule comes from, right? And if you Pareto your root causes, you will most often find that the top 3 or 4 add up to 70-75%. So that's a huge opportunity for you to kill a lot of problems with just a little effort if you focus on this, right? For instance, at WICA, we realized that one of the reasons why we would miss ship dates was equipment was down. And so we did a maintenance Kaizen and realized real quick that 10% of the equipment was responsible for 90% of the shutdowns. What an easy way it is to just tackle that 10% and have a huge impact from it, right? And have an immediate improvement for everybody else. So common root causes for on-time delivery is inventory accuracy. You want to produce something, somebody goes into the inventory, and I thought I had it, but I cannot find the 3 pieces anymore. And so you got to either reproduce it or have a vendor ship it, and with that, your ship date and your delivery promise is through the roof. You have capacity misconceptions. People don't show up for work. You have an attendance problem. And all of a sudden, you're 30% short in capacity on the assembly floor, right? Or you have equipment downtime issues, as we just discussed. The other thing is production maze. If your product throughout the production process goes from one operation to another operation to another operation and to another operation, you have a lot of waiting time. And the longer your lead time is, the more, excuse my French, the more shit can happen, right? The longer it is, that means it has more and more, it has a lot of contingencies built into it. And if only one of those contingencies Murphy shows up, and your delivery, on-time delivery performance is through the roof. So therefore, the shorter you can make your lead times, we'll talk about this next, the shorter you make your lead times, the more chances you have to improve your on-time delivery performance. Lead time reduction. Speed wins with your customer. Shorter lead times happen then when you have fewer failure modes, when you eliminate that. If you analyze your product offering, most typically you will find that 70% of your offers of your products are what we call runners. They are ordered all the time. 20% are repeaters. They are not that often, and customers don't expect a quick ship date, but you can prepare them for them with sufficient inventory of components. And then 10% perhaps are strangers. These are the odd ones where you don't want to commit to a lead time coming out of the gate. So if you do a segmentation between make-to-stock items, which are runners, make-to-order items, which are your repeaters, or make-on-demand items, which are your strangers, then you can quickly come to an inventory control that will actually support your go-to-market strategy in terms of what you want to be for your customers. And then you can offer a whole bunch of products, the same-day shipment, if the order comes until 4 o'clock, or repeaters, you say I ship those within 5 days because I have all the inventory of the components, I just have to assemble it. It's like when you approach a McDonald's and you go to the microphone and I say, will you use your mobile app? And I don't even have one, but I say I want a Big Mac, okay? A Big Mac is a runner. She says, come to window 1, pay, go to window 2, pick it up and go. And then I come and say, I want to repeat, I want a Big Mac, but I don't want onions on it, all right? So they will, as you drive around, they will quickly assemble it from available inventory and give it to you after you paid for it. So a segmentation of your demand pattern will help you to reduce the lead times. Runnership, same day from inventory, and the inventory is Kanban driven. So you can replenish it when it best fits your production schedule. Repeaters have fixed lead times, but because of the components are Kanban driven and they are make to order. And strangers have no lead time commitment. That depends on what the customer wants and what your vendors say, what your capacity is. Yes. Not the 3 hours? Okay. All right. Eliminate the maze. You can do a spaghetti diagram with If you follow the product from assembly to cutting or painting and inspection and back and forth all the time, or you can set it up in the vicinity of each other and have a U-shaped or a straight manufacturing cell. And if you actually simulate it, you will find that one-piece flow is the most productive way to build a product, right? And with that setup, you can expect 50 to 90% faster order to ship and less work in process and much better quality, because here, if a mistake happens, you know it before it actually gets to the next operation if you practice a good one-piece flow. What can you do different tomorrow? My suggestion for you is do a Gemba walk. What is a Gemba walk? A Gemba is from Toyota Production System and means the place where the action happens, the real place. Who walks? That's your leadership team, the people that can move mountains in the organization, that can do shit. They walk and they meet with process owners frequently, if not daily. And they ask the process owner, if yesterday was a bad day, why was it a bad day? Very often you will find you have to explain what is a good day and what is a bad day. Not everybody, they've been used to so many bad days, they think it's normal, right? Well, I did not make my capacity yesterday. I did not make my 50 pieces. I ended up only with 30 pieces, right? So now it's your turn to say, what help do you need in order to avoid a repeat, right? Then listen to your people. They know what the problems are. They will help you with the solution, and act on what you have learned, and act on small improvements quickly, mainly during the first day, because all of us that are sitting in an office, we have no other purpose but to support the shop floor. We have no other purpose but to make these people successful. Prioritize, assign issues, follow up and follow through. Don't drop an issue because it is a nagging issue, right? Follow through and follow up. So engage frontline employees, process owners frequently, push accountability down the ranks. Ask your people to articulate the problem. That is a big step. Tell me what is wrong. And a lot of people wait for you to ask them because they have already surrendered in frustration because their opinion never mattered and they were never asked for it. Right? Act on what you learn and follow through. Build trust that their voices are heard. Don't do this if you don't walk it all the way to the end, because you will leave a lot of disappointed people behind. But if the people see that you're reactive to what they are saying, then they will offer you more and more support. And that will result into morale and culture improvements that have never been seen in your company. And I think that was my last slide. My email address, my phone number, reach out with any additional questions. I'm sorry we didn't have more time. I could talk for days about my experiences, but I do thank you for your attention and for your participation. Thank you very much.
My question, I may have missed it, but one way to improve is I explored how the customer used the product, found out that they didn't need some of the features, modified the product, improved the quality, and got more profit.
Yep. So you had more value in the perceived value than the customer ever actually needed, right?
Right. And some of it was just a hindrance to them.
Another thing that we did real quick was we gave out an utter nonsense award. Everybody could submit an award, a piece of paper that would describe something that would be considered utter nonsense, right? So we were making medical pressure gauges for angioplasty operations, and the customer wanted these in specific trays, and the trays had to be labeled with a sticker. And so the trays would come back because they were very expensive, and we would remove the sticker and put a new one on there with the tracking number and everything. And at some point, somebody in purchasing found a new supplier for a few cents cheaper for that thing and put it on there, and then all of a sudden the customer said, we cannot remove that sticker anymore, and shipped it back, and once it was received from the customer, we threw it in the trash. Now, how much more utter nonsense can you have, right? And so that was only emerged until somebody told us what was going on, and a lot of your people know utter nonsense that's going on left and right. Thank you very much.
Change approval process. It sounds like a change approval process was missing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Correct. Be careful when you change something, right? You may open a hole that you fall into.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope that resonates with some, and I realize that we're not all in the same business, and sometimes it applies, but stay hungry, like Steve Jobs say, right? Stay hungry for innovation of your processes. All right? Thank you very much.
All right, folks, thank you. We're going to do the door prize. Door prize.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation given at one of the Atlanta Metro Chapter meetings of the Georgia Society of Professional Engineers, an affiliate of the National Society of Professional Engineers. To find out more about us or to join us, check us out at gspe.org.